Hello and welcome. It's SVPod. Red is here somewhere, wandering around. The big fella is not. It's another version or edition, I guess I should say, of a One Big Thing pod, as I explained when we had Jon Stewart on over the summertime. And you might recall when this pod relaunched back last spring in April, I explained that there were things I had in my mind, opportunities to just have a conversation, much like we do on SportsCenter, one big thing, one specific topic. And as you know, if you heard the conversation with John, when Otis the dog died and I did his obit on SportsCenter, the reaction from people was amazing. The love that was out there was incredible. And when John lost Dipper, he experienced the same thing on The Daily Show. And then I enjoyed the conversation, many of you did as well, just about the love in the universe that exists for a dog. We saw it again this fall with our guy Herbie on Kirk Herbstreit. Had to say goodbye to Ben. Like Ben was like America's dog. You saw it again. Anyway, that was one idea I had. And there was this other thought in my brain that literally was born out of just one note in a song. And that song is Oh Holy Night. My favorite version of my favorite Christmas song is sung by Josh Groban. And I thought, it'd be cool to talk to him about the song, about singing that song. And that sent me down this wormhole. Buddy, I don't know who knows more about Oh Holy Night than this guy. A lot of factoids maybe we'll get into with Josh. I don't know. But this is an artist who's busy and doing all sorts of things, but was very kind and willing to come on and discuss the song. It's probably confusing when that's the pitch. That's it. That's what we want to talk about. Mostly, yeah. We'll see where the conversation goes. But just a fun opportunity to have a lane like this to talk about things I've thought about. And like I said, 2 of the 3 have happened. The other one I mentioned in the summer, we'll see if we can get there, is Luke Combs singing Fast Car with Tracy Chapman at the Grammys. That fascinates me. That whole backstory, her version, his version, them singing it together. Incredible stuff. So with Josh, that means, Luke, the pressure's on, bud. We got to get you on some point down the road to have that conversation. And there'll be more of these to come. But as I said, thrilled that with Christmas coming up, we get a chance to kind of take a deep dive with the guy who sings, I believe, the most beautiful version of, in my opinion, the greatest Christmas carol. That's a whole other conversation. Stanford Steve doesn't like Blue Christmas. He's established that. Not a big fan of Blue Christmas. What's your favorite Christmas song? Mine's Oh Holy Night. We'll welcome Josh in. It is such a pleasure to be joined now by a multi-platinum recording artist. I believe I have this right. I believe an EGOT nominee. I know for sure. We've got Emmy. We've got Grammy. If you sing an Oscar-nominated song, that means you're Oscar nominated. A Tony nominee as well.
Sure.
It's Josh Groban. Josh, given the demands on the time and given how narrow a pitch this was, I can't thank you enough for being willing to take the time to chat with me about Oh Holy Night. Thank you.
Scott, I've been watching you for a long time. I've been listening to you for a long time. I'm about as much of a sports fan as I am a music fan, so this is a great thrill for me. And yeah, you did. You got that right. I'm what I call EGOT adjacent, which I'll take. It's not so bad.
Have you won any or no?
No, I don't. I have an aluminum foil swan from Benihana's that I've kept on the top of my shelf. But no, I've been invited to the dance quite a few times, but just never a bride.
Okay, I have been. This is. I'm not bragging. I haven't won. I've been nominated now 8 times as outstanding studio host. Which, on the one hand, you've been invited. I mean, you have to give yourself a bit of grace. You were seen as worthy. It's a very short list, and you're on it. But years ago, Josh, when I had a radio show, I had Bryan Cranston on it, sort of the peak of the Breaking Bad fame.
The best.
And what an amazing role, obviously. And I asked him about being nominated, and I asked him to be honest with me and the listeners. There's that 3-second to 5-second lag after they've said the nominees before they're going to rip open the envelope. And I said, please tell me that you shared my feeling in those 3 to 5 seconds where all you can hear in your brain is, please God, say my name. Please God, say my name. And then he said, of course. And in his case, he heard his name. Neither of us have, but someday, that's what, maybe someday.
One day, Scott, we will hear. And I tell you, there is also, when that camera is on your face and they're about to read all the names and they're eventually read the winner's name, that is the greatest acting exercise that even someone like the great Bryan Cranston would have probably tell you that you have to keep, because also there are plenty of times you get invited and you know it's not your year. Like you're just so happy to be in the nominated category, but
Sure.
There's somebody else who has obviously had the hype machine that's been going for them the whole year, and you're just happy to be there. You know they're going to get it, but there is that nanosecond before they read the name where you think to yourself, maybe I'll be the sleeper winner. And then of course when they read the name, you have to pretend that you're.
Oh, that's so lovely. I'm so happy. I'm so happy Ernie Johnson won his 50th one. And then I get these great texts from Ernie. He's so kind. And I mean, listen, if I lose to Bob Costas and Ernie Johnson and Mike Tirico, what am I? I'm not going to sit here, Josh, and tell you I was supposed to win. But there is that moment where you think maybe, and you wonder what would it feel like, and then you're like, oh, you just hear that sad Price is Right trombone, bum bum ba ba.
But exactly, I hear that in my head probably twice a day. But there is also a thing that sometimes when you get that far, but then don't get the actual thing, it kind of means that you're doing your own playbook, and it means that you're not on the super highway of what people think that is things are supposed to be. You're actually slowly, all those times when I felt like I was losing, I was actually kind of building my own little fringe thing around the bullseye that
Sure. Right on.
that actually gave me a longer and more nuanced trajectory than if I had been the person who won 5 my first time around and then nobody ever heard of me again. So, I think there's pros and cons. I'd love to replace the Benihanas with an award one day, but it's not everything.
That's well said. So the whole impetus behind this conversation is that it's the holiday season. It's Christmas time. I'm the guy that Josh, when on Sirius, it's channel 79, Holly. When it's on, boom, I put it on. And that's a lot of the old-timey stuff, your Bing Crosbys, your Burl Ives, whatever. But I love holiday music. I think most people do. And my very favorite Christmas song is "Oh Holy Night," and you sing my very favorite version of it.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
a great honor. Thank you.
Well, I mean, hey, everyone's done it, and there's so many things. When I thought about you're an artist, you're performing this song. So many have recorded it, and I had all these curiosities, and we can explore them. When a song's been done and done brilliantly by so many different artists, and you then sit down to take your pass at it, in what ways are the performances that you've heard influencing how you do it? I mean, what's the approach you bring to the booth to sing a song when there's like, oh crap, I can't mess with that one. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that at all part of the process?
100%. Singing a song that's a classic is 10 times more nerve-wracking than singing a song that even
Really?
if you've written a new thing and nobody's heard it yet, and you're about to present it to the world, and you're going to sit down at the piano and play this new thing that you just wrote 3 months ago. That is a very vulnerable and scary thing to do, but it pales in comparison to the stress that for me at least as a vocalist, you put yourself under when you have a song that is a classic. "Oh Holy Night," of course, fits that description. Doing a song like "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" or "Smile," you do a classic song. And, I am an introvert at heart. I'm one of those people that, I got thrust into the stage at a very young age, but I have always been, in my own mind, the last person to think I should sing anything. I've been kind of pushed, "Oh, no, Pete, please, you got to sing this, and luckily I've got a very pushy team around me, because a lot of times I'm the last person that has to be convinced that somebody needs version 5001 of any classic song, let alone that it be me. So honestly, like, I always give a shout out to the incredible orchestrators and arrangers, because a lot of times, and you mentioned those great singers from yesteryear, certainly those amazing interpreters and crooners, people like Frank Sinatra. It worked with arrangers like Nelson Riddle. The arrangers will sometimes give a singer a palette that they did not expect to hear. And when I hear an arrangement of a song that I was myself skeptical of singing, a lot of times that will be the platform for me to say, oh, I haven't heard that done with it before. I can sink my teeth into that.
Mm-hmm.
And that marriage, it's my face on the front of an album. But honestly, the team of people that you can yes and with and marry in the studio that allow you to really dance together to make something special, that's what it is. So I share the specialness of that Oh Holy Night with David Foster and Umberto Gatica and Bill Ross and the incredible session players in Los Angeles, and everybody that brought color to that. Really, it made a difference.
With respect to all of that, and an appreciation that we stand on the shoulders of others, all of us.
Sure.
It's your voice that is delivering the hammer. It's 4 minutes and change into that song. There's that last Noël, and it is so moving, and it's just so impactful. And I find this, and I'm not even kidding. If I listen to it in the daytime, it's one thing. If I listen to it at night, particularly with my little kids in the car, or if I'm driving around and it's cold and the Christmas lights are out, it's truly this moving thing. It's just this one note in a song. I find that amazing. And I was, so much of my curiosity is about that note. And I may say this a bunch, but you have to forgive my ignorance. I'm not a vocalist. But when you're building to that, is there some process, like for instance, an athlete, like, all right, I can't be exhausted because the fourth quarter's coming and I have to play.
Right. Sure.
Is there some process in building to that last crescendo, if you will, that you have to sort of hang on to vocal energy, if that's even such a thing?
Yes. It's a great question. And I actually, you mentioned fourth quarter, and I for me, like as a big baseball fan, like I'm always fascinated to see, especially if you follow a player throughout the season, the psychology of like when they have to have the big at bat.
Sure.
And what they're thinking of. And I always listen to post and pregame interviews, and I read interviews, and
Who's your team? Who do you root for?
I'm from LA, so for me, it's been a fun year for me this year. But yeah, no, I felt the same way when I got to sing the anthem at opening day at Dodger Stadium. Just like, you're thinking about that note, you're thinking about the thing. But I think that the psychology, sports, any performance psychology is very similar, whether it's the big note or whether it's the triple axel or whether it's the fourth quarter.
Okay.
There's a certain amount of training you do so that you can forget the training. And so it's all the work that you do beforehand with, not only the 10,000 hours of just, incessant scales and warm-ups and all the boring things that nobody sees, but all the stuff you do before you perform. It's a long day of lip trills in the shower and trying it then and doing it again, so that when you go out there, I'm not thinking about that note when I'm singing note one at all. I'm thinking about, just like I don't think, maybe some people do, but I'm not sure most batters are thinking about the home run when they hit a home run. You're just thinking about, I'm just going to swing. I'm just going to swing smoothly. I'm just going to swing how I know how to swing, and I'm going to take the ball when it comes. That's the same way when I'm approaching a high note. Like, I know what I'm going to trust that I know how to do it. I'm going to trust that I've sung it a million times, and I'm going to let the song carry me. I'm going to let the feeling of doing it and the message and the music and the lyric, I'm going to let it carry me. And then before I know it, it's there. And almost the more I think about it, the more I know I'm going to squeeze it shut. So I have to, like, my voice teacher will say, if I'm getting stressed out, she'll say, throw it off the effing balcony. Just throw it off the balcony. Because she knows that I've done enough training that for me, that's not going to be wild and untrained. My technique is going to click in. Obviously, I have to think about breath and things like that. But that's my maze. Other people's mazes might be different.
I tried to find the written word to accompany the story that I know I've read and heard about Billy Joel singing An Innocent Man. And the gist of it was, when he was performing live and the set list included An Innocent Man, the minute he sat down to start playing, could have been New York State of Mind, whatever, but he's already thinking, oh shit, I have to hit An Innocent Man. Oh yes, I am. And it would be almost like crippling to him, because it's like, I got to land that one, and if I don't, the whole night's ruined. And I found that really interesting. That note, obviously the Noël isn't like the highest of notes, but there's, again, it just feels like it carries such weight. because this song is building to it, and everything that you explained makes sense. I don't know that it was necessarily a stressor, but you've taught yourself to do it, and this song's no different than others. But it's just, I guess it was the one that I was so interested in because that note to me feels like whether it's Celine or Ella or Nat King Cole, whomever, like that's a chance for a vocalist to really kind of show off a little bit, isn't it?
It is, and I think that the difference between being nervous today and being nervous about the note, the performance, the audience, whatever it was when I was 18 years old, is that the nerves to me now are something for me to harness and take control. Now, for me now, the nerves are about not knowing what's going to happen. The nerves are always about not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Could go badly. And you think
how
about all the
often does
ways in which...
Josh, I don't mean to be rude and cut you off, but I mean, how often does it go badly? Probably not that often, right?
No, not that often, but there's always the chance,
All right.
And on Broadway, when you're doing 300 performances, there's always going to be some weird note that wasn't even the hard note that flips or blips or your voice cracks or something. And then you say to yourself, oh God, is this going to be a thing? Is that note going to be my thing now every night? And I see this with people who go up to bat too. It's like, oh God, they have a thing now, and you got to work your way out of it.
If it gets in your head, I mean, you're a Dodger fan. Years and years ago, Steve Sachs lost his mind, couldn't throw the ball to first base. And the story goes that Lasorda talked to him before a game, and they're in Chavez Ravine. He's looking around. He's saying, "How many people do you think are going to be here tonight?" 40,000. Yeah. How many do you think How many do you think played professional baseball? Well, not many, Tommy. How many do you think could throw the ball to first base? Oh, yeah, probably all of them. Throw the ball to first base, right? Don't let the little thing become the big thing, I guess, is what he was saying.
Yeah. And always, it always happens if you're coming back from laryngitis too, if you've been sick and now you got to go out and you got to try it for the first time since getting sick. I watched somebody like Gavin Lux find his swing on the Dodgers, and it's just like, eventually you always come back around to throwing it's almost like you don't care because you care so much. If you care so much that you hold it so tightly that you actually don't achieve your greatest. And I think that part of the psychology is allowing yourself the freedom to just let it go because you've done the work and you're actually not going to mess it up.
You mentioned Broadway. I was curious about this because, look, being an EGOT nominee means you're doing everything, whether it's stage or screen or whether it's the big screen or a television screen or whatever. How do you compare Josh performing live and whether it's a concert or on Broadway? I have my perception of what I think would be more nerve-wracking, but you're the guy that does. Is there one that's sort of more stressful than another?
Yeah. Well, singing on TV is the most stressful because it's unforgiving. That close-up is going to be all up your nose. The TV mix, if you can get a TV mix that is vocal friendly, that is probably, you got to hold on to that person. Honestly, like singing the anthem at sporting events is I think one of the most nerve-wracking things a vocalist can do because you're honoring your country, you're honoring the sport, you're also fully aware that all 50,000 of those people are ready for the game, and they want something that they can, obviously honor their country and then move on with what they paid for. And if you do it great, you're going to have you will have said, okay, I did my job. If you even so much as miss the fraction of a syllable of a note, it will live in infamy. Yep. And so it also means a lot. Nothing, it never gets old stepping foot.
That's a really hard song to sing, isn't it? The anthem.
It's also a really hard song. It's hard vocally. You got to make sure you start in the right key. Lyrically, you sing it 50,000 times to yourself before you step foot on that field or court. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, that's the thing is people in the audience, of course you know it. I know it. You know it. We've been singing it since we were children. When all of a sudden, when Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani are standing on either side of you, you start to say to yourself, is it streaming or gleaming? Hang on a minute. And, this is the mind mess that happens sometimes psychologically. But I think TV is the most stressful because you have an opportunity to do it for the most people, and also the mix is usually not going to be in your favor.
Interesting. I hadn't even thought of that when I was thinking about. I would imagine Broadway would be stressful, but there's an intimacy there, and if something happens that goes wrong, I don't know. You're among.
Well,
Go ahead.
the great thing about Broadway is that you got another one the next day, sometimes even that evening.
Right.
You do it so many times that when something slips, and when I was doing Sweeney Todd last year, I had a barber chair that had to slide dead bodies down the floor, and there were all these mechanics to it that were really tricky, and they built a lot of these set pieces, like a 70s Winnebago. They needed some oiling, and needed finesse, and they were wonky, and things were messing up all the time. When you do 300 performances of something, honestly, when something goes a little wrong, there's like a freshness to that, and it kind of keeps you on your toes, and it can be kind of exciting. So, the good news about it is you always feel like you're as good as your last whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news about Broadway is that you do it so many times that you really, not a lot of time passes before you have a chance to try it again.
As opposed to the anthem, you get that one shot. During the playoffs, I was asked, I grew up a Baltimore Oriole fan because I live here in D.C., and I always say, Josh, I was too young for the Senators and too old for the Nationals, so the Orioles were and are my team. And they asked me to throw out the first pitch before a playoff game. And
terrifying.
I pitched when I was young, but I'm not young anymore. And I walk out to the mound, and they did this very lengthy kind of accounting of who I was. I'm like, I'm just this bozo that's supposed to throw this ball out. Let's get on with the show. And I'm standing on the mound, and I'm waiting, and their teams are standing there, and you're like, oh, boy. And all you're thinking in your head is, don't bounce it, don't bounce it, don't bounce it. And I didn't. But I don't get nervous. I mean, whatever, you're on TV and however many people are watching, but I'm a waiter. Like, I'm not the star of the show. I'm just delivering the news that somebody else. I mean that. I just don't feel nerves associated with what I do at all. But I'm telling you, for $1 million, I could not have spit standing on that mound. I was just, you know what I mean? That's what that stress felt like. And again, thank goodness I didn't bounce it. And then the Orioles went out and scored a grand total of 1 run in 2 games, and their season was over. I blame me. I'm pretty sure it's my fault.
Well, but so that pitch was your high note. Was there anything that you had to say to yourself to psych yourself in to throwing a reasonably good ball?
Here, I'll tell you a fun story. I'm getting ready to do this, and there's about a 2-minute window where I'm thinking to myself, all right, I have to go do this, but I'm in my 50s. I'm not the 18-year-old that used to be a pretty good pitcher. I haven't thrown a ball from the mound and I don't know when. And I just thought to myself, I just need to go get my arm loose. So I go running down the tunnel. And I'm thinking, I just have to find someone I can throw the ball with. This is a true story, and it's impossible, but it happened. Walking around the corner is a guy I happen to know who used to play shortstop for the Orioles named Cal Ripken Jr. And here's Cal. And I'm like, Cal, I got to get loose. He's like, all right. So we're in the tunnel, and I kind of lob one, and he goes, well, are you going to go all the way back to the mound? I'm like, yeah. He goes, all right, well, then, so I step it off, and now I kind of throw one, and Cal's catching it in his bare hands, and he's being theatrical, and he's waving his hands like, you're going to break my hand here. So I got loose with Cal Ripken Jr., which helped take the edge off because, of course, like, no one really cares about this but me. But I had to I didn't want the first time I threw the ball, and the same way you wouldn't, your first notes that you sang of the day wouldn't be, oh, say, can you see?
Right.
But that was kind of what I had to work through, that process. But that was the nerves that I had to deal with there. But the anthem is
shout out to Cal Ripken Jr. for getting your nerves up for the theatrics. Really, that was really got your confidence going.
He sold me. Cal did me a solid with that.
Yeah, that's a great. Anybody catching, theatrics are important.
Well, and the fact that it was him, I mean, a guy obviously I grew up watching. It helped kind of calm the nerves. So
it would have done the opposite for me.
Really?
That's great. Oh my God! If all of a sudden, Oral Hershiser said, hey, come, let me warm you up. I think I probably would have lost my mind a little bit, but that's great.
I didn't have to sing. You didn't have to pitch. We both did what we sort of, I guess, do.
That's true.
I wrote down all these different performers, and I was curious if any of their versions was there a favorite you had of Oh Holy Night before you went in and did your version?
Oh man.
I'm not asking you to. I don't want to put you in a bad spot where you have to say one and then see some other person at a party. You're like, oh,
I
so
love
I'm not
Nat
your
King
favorite.
Cole. I love Nat King Cole. I love Celine's version. Um, I love any of the great operatic tenors. Whenever I've heard someone like Pavarotti do it, or Placido Domingo, I feel this way. I feel the way about these songs as I do about like when they make movie musicals, and you're just like, God, I wish they hired singers. I'm glad that like they're now finally like they're getting real singers in these movies now. Whenever I hear a real singer who can just, like you said, it's that moment at the end. You just want your hair to blow back. It's
But
spiritual. It's
what
wonderful.
that's a perfect segue because this one is spiritual. Are you familiar with a man by the name of David Phelps?
Yes, I am.
He is
Yeah.
there is a version of him. It's in a church, I believe, in Alabama. You could find it on YouTube. I, as a vocalist, I that version is astounding to me, and it's different because I think there are two versions really. There's one where it's Noël, Noël, and there's another where it's O Night Divine. Right?
Right.
They're different, and his version of those high notes is O Night Divine, and it's with
Night
this
Divine, right.
choir, and it makes me think of the Walking in Memphis line, like, tell me, are you a Christian child? Ma'am, I am tonight. Like, if
Yeah,
you
I am
listen to
tonight,
that
yeah.
song,
Absolutely.
whatever your faith might be,
Yeah.
I think his version is just you're familiar with it. I just curious.
I am now and I have to go re-listen to it now that you've said it, but I have heard that version, and it is spectacular.
It is that.
And I feel that way about it too. I mean, my father's side of the family is Jewish, my mother's side of the family is Episcopalian, and when I sing that song, it's the closest I get to feeling that,
Understood.
and that's what music can do.
You said something really, really interesting to me, Josh, in the beginning about feeling more nervous about doing a song others had done. And with that in mind, you put out an album, and it was, 2007, Noël. And I can't help but think, one of my all-time favorite lines, the late, great Norm Macdonald on Saturday Night Live Weekend Update, he said, Kenny G's got a Christmas album out this year. Hey, happy birthday, Jesus. Hope you like crap. Of course, everyone falls out because it's the perfect Norm uppercut. And I happen to think Kenny G's a wonderful saxophone player, but the nerves that are associated with releasing that to the world, you don't know how it's going to be received. But then, I mean, that was historic. The Billboard chart, it was like the most consecutive weeks at #1 for a Christmas album, and it's some 6 million plus copies. I might be selling you short, but to have that received the way it was, I'm interested in sort of how that landed with you for it to be such a monstrous hit.
I was surprised. First of all, I knew I was going to make a Christmas album. I thought that it would be, for lack of a better term, just kind of a side project. It wasn't even like a main,
right?
It wasn't the main like album on my deal with my record label. It was just, they were like, yeah, sure, go make a Christmas album, sure. David Foster and I had a vision of how to do it, and we really wanted to do it. You're not in the most Christmassy feeling when you record or film anything Christmas, because you have to do it in the summer in order to make it for the holidays. So, I'm in 100-degree weather recording, these songs. And so, but I was hoping that my fans who had been wanting a Christmas album for a few years now, I was hoping they would enjoy it. What I was not expecting at all was like Oprah making it one of her favorite things, and the reception of it being so incredible, and people like Norm Macdonald, all the really hard comics and people being like, man, that album just makes me cry, man. That's awesome. Like, I was not expecting it to kind of melt the general public as
Why do you think it
much
did?
as I don't know, because honestly, as an artist, you slide something under the door of the world when you're done, and sometimes people respond to it in a way where it's like every cell in their body does exactly what you wanted them to feel, and sometimes you get the Norm Macdonald saying, "How does it feel to be crap?" So all you can do is focus on your own goosebumps and say to yourself that, look, we're all human beings, and I'm going to sing something that makes me feel those things, and hopefully other people will feel it too. I also know what it feels like to feel that and for other people not connect to it. So I think that with something like a Christmas album, you have an opportunity to really unite people, that you have an opportunity to make something that comes off people's shelves every year. Those albums that you mentioned, those singers that you mentioned on Sirius, those are the ones that I listened to growing up as a kid. And I said to myself, I want to do something that is a tradition for families every year. And but I also made an album with Rick Rubin next, who had just finished doing Metallica, because I was like, okay, my Christmas album has only been out 3 months, has become the number one album of any category. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go, that chapter's closed. Don't worry. I'm going to go over here and do something else. So I guess I did rebel against it a little bit, because I was just so just struck by how unexpectedly great it did.
Well, and I appreciate that asking a question like, why do you think people loved your stuff, is kind of a difficult one, because I'm asking you to just, I just think it has to be a wonderfully affirming thing to have your work received in such a powerful way that continues to resonate. I think that has to be, it has to just be a wonderful thing. That, I mean, here it's 2024, and you're on some sports guys podcast talking about a song, and it's my favorite. Is there a song that's on that album that you particularly enjoy? And I appreciate, Episcopalian and Jewish faith. I don't know. Maybe we're doing the work. I don't know. Maybe not.
No, this is. I mean, I grew up with Christmases, so it's like when my dad married my mom, they kind of decided that it was going to be more on her side of things. So
Okay.
so I was raised with that, but I know, first of all, I want you to know, again, I said it at the top of our talk, but this is a huge privilege for me. You're the best. You're the best, and
That's really kind.
Your voice is one of my favorites.
Thank you.
And I love the big note songs. I do love the Oh Holy Nights. I love whenever I can really let loose and let my hair fly back. And
Oh, come all ye faithful with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, isn't it?
oh my God, they are unbelievable. And
That's
we had
a
to
lot,
record that.
man. That's a lot of voices to try to. You're not keeping up with, right? It's there. This is the together. We're all in the salad together. That's an incredible version.
That's where you need a good mixer to just make sure your bump's just a little higher, because there's no fighting 120 singers. Don't even try. You'll lose your voice. The magic of mixing. My favorite to sing is the Christmas song. I grew up listening to Tony Bennett and Mel Torme singing "Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire,"
Sure.
and that was, to me, that's Christmas. Like, to me, listening to that was kind of what made me feel warm and fuzzy at the time of year. So I love singing that.
But I'm holding my hand up to say, but wait, you're, and as an LA guy, I never get the idea of I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. You know what I mean? Or chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I mean,
well,
my friends
dreaming of a white Christmas, yes, because we never had it. It was always a dream. It actually hailed once in LA when I was a kid in the 80s. Forgot what year it was, but it actually hailed. And anybody who's lived on the East Coast and the West, hail is not the same as snow. Not nearly as fun. Kind of dangerous. Stay inside. But it hailed in LA, and I sure as hell, I made an ice ball out of hail, and it's like, it's snowing. Gave my brother a bruised arm.
Close enough. I did all this. I went down wormholes, man. I know a lot about this song now that I didn't before. Did you know that it was a poet in France in the 1840s that wrote it? That was actually an atheist, not really buying into the whole story. Then there was an American named John Sullivan Dwight that changed some of the words in the 1800s. And there was actually this note. This was written: "It might be a good thing to discard this piece whose popularity is becoming unhealthy." That was what was said of this song early on. That they wanted.
It sounds like some of my early reviews.
Not yours, just the song in general. And then there's some accounts which suggest this was the first ever song sung live on the radio. So there's just all these interesting backstories that I found out about it. And I want to sort of bring this sort of to a full circle to lead us to a thing that people are going to want to find. One of the other great versions of this, not Eric Cartman, Jennifer Hudson. There are many that would say her version is at the top of the list. With that in mind,
I agree.
What do we have coming in? What is it? The 20th of December?
Yeah, 20th of December. as it happens, Jennifer Hudson and I sing a duet of this song for the for CBS's Christmas special that they so generously given me this year. I've got a show called Josh Groban and Friends Go Home for the Holidays, and has some amazing friends and guests. Jennifer Hudson being one of them. The War and Treaty, Tori Kelly, James Bay, and it's the whole show is about raising awareness for adoption, and the show Home for the Holidays over the last 25 years has given incredible homes to some wonderful kids, thousands of kids.
Beautiful.
And so, but Jennifer and I have known each other for a little while. I've always wanted to sing with her, and knowing that she has this epic version of the song, we decided to sing it. What was so interesting about it, when people listen to it, is that her high note is "O Night Divine." My high note is "Noël, Noël," and we come together and sing them together. And honestly, there are so many moments you have on stage as a singer that are kind of these aha. We'll never forget these moments. Whenever you get to stand toe to toe with a vocalist as amazing as Jennifer is, and also like sing high notes at each other, you hope the audience is feeling it as much as you are. But singing that note with her was one of the great vocal moments of my career. I can't wait for people to watch it.
I would just share that the folks that I was chatting with that help you out were kind enough to let me get a little bit of a glimpse, or I shouldn't say a glimpse,
nice.
but put an ear to that. And I mean, it's exactly what the folks listening to you and I talk imagine. They're thinking, wait. You're taking Jennifer Hudson, you're taking Josh Groban, you're putting them together. I mean, it's such a moving thing. I hate to be redundant, but it is. And
wow.
I'm fascinated by, how do you figure out, again, forgive my ignorance, how do you kind of figure out, all right, you're doing this, I'm doing that? Like, how do we ham and egg this? Obviously, you don't just go up there and wing it, but how do you sort out the arrangement together?
We figured it out at soundcheck that day. We had Ricky Minor and then a wonderful MD and band behind us, and knew that they would carry us whatever we decided to do. These were all A-lister players. And I know that Jennifer has a musical mind that is so quick, and I really wasn't worried that we would go up there. And with singers, sometimes there's like a shorthand of like figuring out like, okay, I'll do A, you do B. Like, well, I'll take high part, you take low part. Maybe I'll give you this one, I'll give you that one. It's like you do this enough, and you can kind of figure out what your dance is going to be pretty quickly. And hello.
This Red, my you think this is a reindeer? Actually, he's a Rhodesian Ridgeback. He's about 100 pounds.
Hope you left out carrots.
And
my goodness.
he's just sort of climbing up in Dad's lap here. Hey, bud, we're talking.
Yes, you get on up there. Just a tiny little lap dog.
Yeah, no, he thinks he is. Which is
now Christmas can begin.
Yeah, hey, buddy, I need you to.
Oh, he's giving you the paw.
Yeah, he's chewing my hand. That's what he's doing. Yep,
I need attention. Time for a walk.
Yeah, he's had enough. That's what he's telling me. Hey, buddy,
you are getting whacked.
I really am getting mauled by Red. Hold on.
He is the best.
He is that. Let's take a 20-second time out here. Just. Oscar, we got Red. There you go. Back you go. Sorry. For those that are not viewing this, Josh has zero sympathy for what just happened.
It's as wonderful as you can imagine, truly.
I mean, fine. Get yourself listen, I'll just say this to anybody. I was explaining this before you came on. When we started this podcast again in the spring, obviously it's a sports pod, but I said there were several things I wanted to do. One of which was to visit with Jon Stewart. I had a Ridgeback named Otis that died several years ago, and I did this obit on my show, which became this.
I watched it. It was amazing. Yeah, because I had lost my dog around the same time, and it was really, really powerful.
Well, that's kind, and the beauty is in the shared understanding of what that bond is. And John lost his dog Dipper. There was this 3-legged rescue. And then John did his obit on The Daily Show. And so I wanted to have him on because I said, I think that there's still humanity in the world, and it's dogs that really brings it out. Also, Christmas music. So this was another version, another of the conversations that I thought it would be such a blast to have. And I didn't know that my next dog would now crawl on my lap and attack me while you and I were trying to chat about how we figure out who does what with you're doing a sound check with Jennifer Hudson.
I think our soulmate, dearly departed dogs were giving us a wink.
What kind of dog did you have, Josh? What kind of dog?
I had a
was it?
Wheaton Terrier, and he was awesome. He lived to be 16. His name was Sweeney because I was a theater geek when I got him 20 years ago. And I said, I'm going to name him after theater characters. I'm going to name dogs after theater characters that I love. Never in a million years did I think that after he passed away, the planning would begin for me to actually play Sweeney Todd on Broadway. That's another little crazy universal link that happened.
I swear, man, everybody's beliefs and faith are their own, and I appreciate whatever they might be. But man, there's stuff that happens, and I don't know what else you're chalking it up to, right? Like come on, Sweeney goes off, and then now here you are. Come on.
I honestly, like I've been, like I said, I was raised kind of, Episcopalian, I guess you could call it, but I also have been like somebody who has really enjoyed the wonderment of kind of learning about everything and learning about spirituality and just learning about being open to any signs you get and flexing gratitude and love and trying to put that out into the universe and being okay not having all the answers. And when you open yourself to those things that happen, it's pretty incredible.
That's so perfectly said. That's my message to my kids all the time is just like put gratitude into the universe because it comes back around, and if it doesn't, then somebody else gets your gratitude, and then when it's sort of necessary. I think what just happened here was I think my dog just came and chewed my arm. Is all that was. I don't know that was Otis. I don't think that was anything other than just that. But listen,
Either way, it was a pretty good. Either way, it was a pretty good podcast moment. So I think we did good.
You were laughing at me, which I understood.
I loved it.
That's
I was
fine.
laughing with
Listen, you. I said at the top, this is a really, really narrow lens to look at anything through, and I get that this pitch is kind of odd, but I just appreciate so much what this one song means to me, to so many other people, and I just hope that you truly get. Like a lot of people buy your albums, that's a great thing. But I just hope that you know how powerful your voice with this song, that combination, and I can't wait for people at home on the 20th to see you and Jennifer do it. I hope that there's gratitude in that and recognizing what you've done with this song because it's a wonder.
Endless gratitude, and it never gets old, and it actually gets even greater as you any of us who are lucky enough to do this for longer than a nanosecond. You see people. Singing can be very isolating, especially as a solo artist. You record, you're in a booth, you're on stage, you're in your dressing room, you're in a tour bus. A lot of times you see things kind of in the macro. You might see an audience cheer and you say, well, that's wonderful, and I'm so glad they liked it. But sometimes the specific stories of how a song has been a soundtrack for somebody's life and what's meant to them, sometimes that's a little bit hard. Obviously now with social media, people let you know all the things, but it's to know now in a way that I didn't necessarily get to know as much when I recorded that song, because that was pre Twitter and social media, or X, I guess, social and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. Now I can just flip on my phone and I can see and hear stories of how people have been affected by the music. And that's what gets me going every day. That's the meter. Like I said, you can't tell what people are going to think whenever you put something out, but you can listen to those stories and say to yourself, all right, well, my compass must be right in a certain way. If I feel this, other people will feel it too, and stay the course.
Right on. It's very, very cool to meet somebody whose work you appreciate and admire, and then find out there's a lot of sort of similarities. There's a lens that I think we share as it relates to seeing the world, and gratitude's at the core of it all. So I'm grateful for this. I wish for you continued success and health. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I hope our paths cross somewhere in person. It'd be fun to shake your hand and say hello. If not,
I would love that.
Well, we'll hope that it does. But Josh, thank you so much for doing this.
Scott, thank you. Have a great Christmas, great holiday, and thanks to your listeners. And like I said, big fan, and hope to see you soon.
December 20th, CBS. I didn't even get to Vegas in May, but where I'm going to get to, where is that? Where are you going to be in Vegas? You got a residency where?
Yeah, I've got doing a small residency at the Coliseum in Vegas sometime in May. Yeah,
I don't know that Oh Holy Night's going to play in May, but I'd say sing it. I'd say get snow. Hey, it's Vegas. What difference does it make? Just get a snow machine.
Sometimes people tell me, I listen to your Christmas album all year long. I say, well, you wouldn't want to meet any of them, but they're there. They're out there.
Maybe not. Maybe that's not for me. You come back next year. All right, Josh. Thank you, man. Our thanks to Josh Groban. Fun conversation. Fun chance to do something different than we typically do here in SVPod. But as I explained at the top and with Josh, the idea that there could be chances to explore other things with people outside of sports, or even one big thing topic within sports. But to talk to Josh about this song, which, by the way, wasn't on that album, Noël, initially. They added it years later. It's so good. So good. Again, the 20th of December, his version with Jennifer Hudson together and all of the other artists, part of his Christmas special. That is on CBS. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We look forward to being back here doing what we normally do, talking about all of the playoff and the NFL, etc. But in the meantime, it is the holiday season. It is Christmas time. Be kind, be good to one another, and we'll talk to you soon.